Hey everybody, Chris here. I don't often discuss guitar gear on this channel. I believe this is the first gear video I've ever done. But given the lack of information on YouTube about this particular instrument, it's the Hagstrom Super Viking electric guitar. I thought that it might possibly be helpful for me to contribute my thoughts. There was a lot that I like about this instrument. There's a lot that I didn't like about it when I first got it, and I've made some changes to it to adjust it more to my preferences, but I'm sure we'll get all into that. I only have one other video so far on the channel with me speaking into the camera, and that one was entirely scripted. This one is going to be a little bit more of a free-flowing, informal type of discussion. But Hagstrom Super Viking electric guitar. As you can see, it is a semi-hollow, and it's got some interesting things going for it. Generally speaking, in terms of the mechanical qualities of the instrument, I think that it's quite good. So let's just run down what we got here, starting from the headstock. Pretty big headstock, kind of an odd design, but maybe it's to your taste. I think I like it. The tuners always impress me, very good quality. They've got this kind of quirky, maybe Art Deco influenced sort of design, but I like that too. And very good tuning stability on these tuners right from the factory. Anytime I have an issue with my tuners, I tend to replace them, but no, never had to replace these. In my experience, they hold tune about as well as a good set of Grovers, and for some tuners right from the factory, that's pretty impressive. Typical for this style of headstock, it's cocked back at an angle. You want to watch it if you're going to be dropping this guitar. I suspect that might be an area where it could be susceptible to a break, so just be careful. Just be careful. The truss rod accessed right here, also accessed right down there, but we'll get to that. Takes this kind of odd, metric measurement for the Allen wrench. So once you find that one Allen wrench that works to adjust this truss rod, you definitely want to set that aside, because none of the other truss rods, none of the other Allen wrenches in your collection are going to work to adjust the truss rod on this instrument, so just be aware. There is an adjustment down here, the headstock. There's also an adjustment down here, bottom of the neck. To access this adjustment, you actually have to take the pickup out. You have to remove the pickup to get it out of the way. So frankly, I don't think it's very practical, but some people might appreciate the fact that the option is there to adjust the truss rod. The nut, I believe, is a Graphtec nut. Very well done. High quality nut. It's cut well. I've never had any issues with strings getting caught in the nut, seems well lubricated and everything, and also takes different gauges of strings very well. I tend to use very thick flat wound strings. I have 13 gauge set of flat wounds on it right now, and works wonderfully without any modification from the factory, and everything just stays nicely intonated. None of those intonation issues that you get from some of these very cheaply made nuts on some of these Asian import instruments. Fretboard and neck, fingerboard, all of that good stuff. We're looking at a 25.5-inch scale length, like a Fender guitar. Doesn't feel like a Fender guitar though, because as you can see, look at that neck joint. The neck really does not come far into the body at all. I mean, if you count this fret here, let's count that, say 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 22 frets that are overlapping with the body at all. The rest of those frets are just hanging out over here. So this neck extends quite far from the guitar body. So if you're used to kind of a Fender style instrument, it's not necessarily a familiar feel. I've gone back and forth between this instrument and a Strat style instrument, and what I tend to find is that my muscle memory gets thrown off one way or the other depending on which instrument I last played. So just something to be aware of, but nothing that's going to be too hard to get used to. or adjusted to. Once you do get the truss rod adjusted, so you have your straight neck, it feels very solid, very rigid, very nice to play, and you can get your action quite low without getting a level of buzzing that's going to cause you any issues. The shape of the back of the neck is this sort of inoffensive C shape. It's fine. It's probably not going to be, well, put it this way. You have a strong preference for a certain shape of neck, one way or the other. Might not be your thing, but I think it'll be fine for most players. I think it'll be fine. The fingerboard itself, I looked it up before I made this video. It actually has a 15-inch radius, which is pretty flat. I've never really had an issue playing guitars with a rounder fingerboard or a flatter fingerboard. It's not the top thing on my mind, but if you give me the choice, I would probably pick a flatter fingerboard, and this one has that. So if that's something that interests you, got your nice flat fingerboard. Now, between so much of the neck jutting out from the body like this compared to other guitars, and then also the massive headstock here, this is a quite large instrument. I mean, even the lower bout here, quite wide. So it's wide, it's long. This thing doesn't fit in most cases that are marketed for semi-hollow guitars. Either you're going to have to go with a bass case, or you are going to have to go with Hagstrom's proprietary gig bags or cases, just something to be aware of. I actually compared the size of this instrument to my electric bass right before I shot this video, and it is nearly as long as my electric bass. The nut doesn't come up quite as high, but with the very large headstock, this guitar nearly makes up for that length. It is almost as long as an electric bass. The pickguard is a replacement. So the original pickguard, it's this kind of sparkly design with the word super on it. Maybe it's to some people's taste. For me, it was a little bit gaudy and I had it replaced. Continuing down with the mechanical elements, you got high quality Tune-o-matic style bridge with the adjustments on this side with a flathead screwdriver. Never had any problems with this bridge. It's never caused me any buzzing or anything. Very nice bridge. Nice tailpiece too. As you can see, it is a trapeze style tailpiece in the shape of a harp. I find it elegant. It kind of calls back to the early days of archtop production as opposed to stop bar tailpiece, which would be more common on this type of guitar. But important thing to note here, that little insignia, the Hagstrom logo, actually was missing from this guitar when I got it from the factory. I had to contact the retailer to get them to contact the company to send a replacement part. So kind of iffy quality control there, I suppose. Also, I don't know how well you can tell on this lousy phone camera, but it's not necessarily the nicest quality of the print of the design here. Ultimately an insignificant detail, but for the price you're paying for this, I don't know. I think maybe you could expect better, but we'll get into that. Another thing I appreciate about this guitar is the acoustic volume is actually surprisingly substantial for a guitar of this type. It's nothing that you could ever gig with, but if you're looking for a guitar that you can practice with quietly at your home, has maybe a little bit more substantial volume than what you would typically get from a solid body electric guitar, it might be a good option. Also, it's quite light. compared to my other semi-hollow electric guitar, which honestly feels a little bit more like a Les Paul on your back. No, this one is quite light. It's comfortable. It's easy to sit with, easy to stand up with. Just a very ergonomic guitar, for me at least. Again, I have the size of a bass, but you know, I'm a big guy. I actually tend to prefer that sort of thing. Where I really tended to have some trouble with this instrument, in terms of how it came from the factory, was with the electronics. The original pickups, kind of hard to describe, but I guess the word that comes to mind is nasally. I could never really get a nice, clean sound out of them that I wanted. They sounded very, very good overdriven, to be clear. But I'm more of a jazz player than a rock player, definitely. And the original pickups, I think they called them HJ50, were just not to my taste at all. I found it a little bit odd that they would put pickups that are so much more biased towards a rock sound in this style of guitar. To my mind, the whole idea of the semi-hollow or 335 style guitar is to bridge the gap between jazz and rock, to be able to do both reasonably well. And those pickups did not do that for me. Now, I actually wish I could include some high-quality recordings of those original stock pickups so you could hear exactly what it is that I'm talking about. I did dig up this one recording I made with whatever potato of a phone I was using at the time. So, not a great recording, but you can still hear some of the qualities that I'm talking about. In this recording, I'm playing the guitar on the neck pickup, and to my ear, it sounds more like a bridge pickup of this type of guitar should. So you can imagine how much more extreme the bridge pickup must have gone in that direction, too. Lots of issues I have with the stock electronics. This switch is a switchcraft. I had to swap out the original switch from the factory. It was finicky. It was giving me some issues. As mentioned before, the tone of the stock pickups, pretty nasally. I would try to just roll back my tone, find something suitable. However, what I found was that the taper on the stock pots just completely uneven. I could roll back the tone, and then for maybe 90% of that roll, I heard no difference from having the tone pot open 100%. All of that variation is kind of clumped together into that last 10% of the taper. Not very good, not a reliable way to access the tone that you want when you have to find it within that little tiny area of the taper. Something that I do appreciate about the electronics is putting the output jack there. Originally this jack plate wasn't here, I had it installed, but that's a change from the traditional 335 design that I do appreciate, having the output jack right over there on the bottom. I tend to like that better. So let's get into a little bit of what I've done to this guitar in order to improve it. That finicky little switch that I talked about, swapped that out real quick with a switchcraft, and that's given me no problems. Changed the pickups on this guitar a couple of times. The first time that I changed them out, I believe I put a Kent Armstrong, I think it's called 6-shooter in the neck. Not one of the ones really wound by like Kent Armstrong and his team, but one of the Chinese factory production models. And it was fine. It was not remarkable, but it did the job, did what I wanted to do. Just a regular humbucking pickup sound. And then some cheap thing from GFS in the bridge, because to be honest with you, I didn't care too much for the bridge pickup anyway. And that worked out fine. But I ran into some money, and I decided that I wanted to elevate the pickups even further. And currently I have some Lindy Fralin pickups in here, which I quite like. They can do the traditional PAF thing, but they have a sort of clarity and vibrancy and vivacity to them that I wasn't necessarily finding in the cheaper pickups, which is great. Speaking of that Kent Armstrong pickup, I do have a couple of recordings of myself playing the guitar on this channel where I'm using that Kent Armstrong pickup. I knew a little bit more about recording at this point. These are recordings made with an SM57 pointed in the speaker cone of my amplifier. So feel free to check those out if you're interested in hearing how that sounds. More recently, I've also uploaded a video of these pickups, the Fralin neck pickup to be specific, with the guitar run straight into my Helix floor and recorded directly into my computer that way. So if you're interested in hearing how that sounds, please check out that video. Also swapped out the lousy potentiometers, which I mentioned, with high quality American potentiometers. I kept the push-pull here. That's something I neglected to mention. The original guitar from the factory comes with a push-pull. It does a coil split on either the neck or the bridge pickup, or both, depending on what you like. And currently I have the Fralin the resistors installed in the wiring, which give the coil split a little bit of a stronger sound. The difference is actually a little bit subtle from the full humbucker sound with the current wiring and setup, but I like it. It's maybe a little bit closer to a P90 than a true single coil. I acquired this guitar, I believe it was in 2017, and at the time it was retailing for, I want to say maybe $850, which I put into the inflation calculator, and that's approximately $1,000 in today's money. Today, it's retailing at Guitar Center for $1,250, $1,250. And for the price you're paying, is it worth it in 2024? Here's the thing. This made an excellent project guitar for me, right? With the modifications that I've made to the instrument to really make it my own, pickups, new pick guard, new pots, I even swapped out the knobs there, jack plate, the switch. I've essentially turned this into my version of like a fully optimized 335 guitar. This is like the ultimate semi-hollow to me. But to my mind, especially for those of us who have music as a substantial portion of our incomes, to drop $1,250 on a guitar, I expect that thing to work pretty darn well, do pretty much what I want it to do out of the box. I don't think it's fair for a guitar to cost that much and require so much tinkering and modification to get it to do what I want. It's my personal opinion. If you're more on the rock side of things, then maybe the stock version of this guitar would be a little bit more appealing, again with the pickups, but you're going to have the same issues with the switch. You're going to have the same issues with the pots. I don't know how you feel about an output jack over there on the side without any jack plate. You might experience many of the same issues that I had. So, my personal opinion, excellent project guitar, not so excellent guitar off the rack. Is it worth it in 2024? If I had to give a one-word answer, honestly, no. I love this guitar as it is. I've put in a lot of effort and time and consideration and money into making it mine. But for somebody who's gigging and needs something that just works, I would recommend looking elsewhere, honestly. I hope that you found my comments helpful. And if you have any questions about this guitar or my experience playing with it, please feel free to leave me a comment and I'll write back to you. Thanks very much.